Hello everyone, it's Andrew from GemTCG here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys how to sell your collections in the easiest ways, and then also how to get the most value from your collections. And this topic can be used on graded cards, raw cards, sealed products, anything like that. So if you have collections like that and you want to figure out how to sell them in the best way possible, this video is for you, and I hope you guys find it helpful. And also another thing is, this video is more about selling collections as a whole and not singling them out to make bigger profits. Because most people, when they're collecting and they need to sell a collection really fast, or they're getting out of the hobby, they need to be able to sell it all at once. They can't afford to just list them all individually and then wait for the sales to come in. So this is who that video is targeted for. And if you want to learn how to sell singles on eBay and TCG Player to make the most value, you could check out the other videos on my channel where I go through it in more detail. And I also want to share some exciting news with you all. I was able to get my first sponsor, and I want to just thank you all for supporting the channel, because truthfully I would not have been able to get to this level without you guys and all of your support. All the positive comments and you guys letting me know how helpful these videos are. I really appreciate that, and thank you all. So that leads me to the sponsor of this video, which is Collectr, because keeping track of your collections can be pretty messy, and sharing them with people that you want to sell them to is also pretty tedious. So that's why I recommend using the Collectr app, because it just makes it really easy to keep track of everything in one place. You could share it really easily. You just send them the link to your portfolio, and then they could view everything in the collection, which is much better than sending like a list or taking screenshots of what you have and then sharing it that way. And then another great feature is that it keeps track of your collection over time. Like with my collection, it's gone up like $1,000 in the past month, which is insane. And it's cool to just see that, like how well your investments or portfolio and collection is doing. And it can also be used to learn like when to buy and when to sell, because if something's really low, you want to buy it, and then if it's really high, you might want to sell it. And the best part is it's completely free. So if you like keeping track of your collections and wanting to sell them and share them in an easy way, download the Collectr app, and the link is actually in the description. So if you want to check it out there, go ahead. The key to selling your collections is, there's a few things actually. So one of them is knowing exactly what's in there. How many cards are in there? What's the average value? Is it all a certain type of card? Is there maybe some sealed product in there and then some raw cards in there? You need to be aware of all this stuff, because it's very important when you're trying to sell it, and it can really help you navigate who to sell to, how to sell it, and stuff like that. Because one of the main things is, like for me, for example, if I'm buying a collection, I will not be buying a collection that has graded cards in there, because I don't want to pay already graded prices for a card if I could just buy it and grade it myself. And then another thing is, my store doesn't really focus on graded cards, so I don't need them. So I would be paying a lot lower than maybe someone that prioritizes graded cards. So then that's one thing. Value, like make sure you have all of the different types of cards separate. So if you're selling sealed product, you want to have a separate collection for that. Maybe graded and raw cards can be combined if you find the right buyer, but I would still recommend keeping them separate just in case, and you could always share multiple lists with someone. And if it's a sealed collection, I would definitely recommend doing it locally, because shipping is very expensive and these boxes are very fragile. So you need to invest a lot in like shipping supplies, making sure it's very tight in the box and like it won't move around at all. And the tiniest like nick or damage on a box can cause a huge problem. And I've had problems with that before, where I sent something in the mail and then maybe the box got like smushed or something happened to it, and the buyer was pretty upset with it. So they did ask for a refund, and it's pretty valid for them to ask for that. So you need to be careful of that. Of course, you can still ship them, but there's just a lot more risk involved when you're shipping sealed product, and there's a huge price to pay for shipping. And then for graded cards, you can typically sell them for higher because they're not as easy to come across than raw cards. And there's also that guarantee that comes with it. Like if I'm buying a near mint card, it could be an 8, a 9, or a 10. But if I'm getting a PSA 10 card, it's no matter what it is, it's a 10. Like I know that while I buy it, I know the expected value I can get from it. So there's that certainty to it. So people will be willing to pay more. And the other thing is, I believe there may be more demand with selling sealed or graded cards. I don't sell them a lot myself, so I don't know. But I think if you have the right market, you could sell graded cards pretty well. Raw cards, you could just make a list of them, use an app or platform like the sponsor of this video, the Collectr app. You could just type in the card, add it to your collection, and then share it with the buyer or potential buyers. And you can do that for all of them, sealed, graded, and raw cards it works for. So you make a list like that, and this is where the type of, or like the value of the collection comes into play. Because if you're selling, 10 cards that are worth $1,000 total, you can get a pretty high percentage when you're selling them as a whole. But if you're selling 100 cards that are maybe $200 total, you will have to sell for a lot higher or a lot lower price because there's a lot lower value in there. And it would take the seller much more time to sell them. So they can't pay, 80% or something like that for cards where it's like a $2 average. And that's why when you're doing this and let's say you have a huge variety, you want to maybe keep them separate. So do a collection of like $20 and up cards, $5 and below cards. And then you can say, I'll take 80% for this $200 or $20 minimum collection. And then I'll take 60 or 70% for the $5 minimum collection. And this works great because you have more control and you can leverage the values to make more money, because there's many times like people will sell me collections and then they have like, let's say 20 cards that are worth $100 or more, and then there's like 300 cards that are worth less than $5 in there, and this really skews the average. So I have to offer them a lower price. But if they were to separate those collections, I could pay them that higher percentage for the more expensive cards, but then the lower percentage for the cheaper cards, which is pretty fair, but it's just another step that you have to do to make sure you get the most value. And then the most important thing, or at least in my perspective as a common buyer, is that you need to label everything accurately and make sure you're being as transparent as possible. If you're selling cards that are damaged, don't list them as near mint to just try to take advantage of the buyer and like try to scam them and hope they don't, reach out and try to ask for a refund, because it's very annoying to do that. And in my experiences, when people do that, I usually don't buy, or I never buy from them again, because it's a huge time waste, and then it's also just pretty frustrating to deal with when you have to ask for refunds and then give those price differences, compare the prices that they charge versus what the actual condition price would be. So try to label everything, show them pictures, put a timestamp of the cards. You don't have to take a picture of every single card, but show the collection as a whole with a timestamp. So put your name and then the date on there, and then share the list with them so it has like the prices. Let them verify everything so that when they get the collection, they can look through it, compare it with the list, and then make sure, is everything there? Is everything, graded correctly or described correctly? And it just really helps with that. And one other thing with getting the most value out of your collection is posting them in Facebook groups. And this is actually the step on how to sell the collection. So before I was talking about how to, deal with the selling aspect, but this part will be about how to actually find people that will buy your collections. So the number one thing I do or I would do if I was selling a collection, is to go on Facebook Marketplace or Facebook groups, not Marketplace, and then make a post with the list, like have screenshots or the Collectr app link, and then post it there. Say you're selling the collection, you're open to offers, you're not trying to trade it or anything, you just want to sell it. And you will get multiple comments from buyers like me reaching out to you, giving an offer, and then potentially buying it. And what I would recommend is that you have a price that you're looking for. But if you want, you could say like only accepting offers, not really having a price in mind. But I don't recommend that because as a buyer, it's very annoying to like deal with people that are just trying to make the buyer do all the work, and they want you to price out their collection for you, make the offer, and then you can just ignore them if you don't like it. So if you want to get like a smooth sale process, have a price in mind. And the way that I would recommend doing the pricing is, let's say you have a bunch of sealed product and it's like booster boxes, ETBs, all high-end stuff. You're gonna want no less than 80%, like at the bare minimum 80%. I would be comfortable with like 85, preferably 90, but 90 is very hard to get, especially if you're selling a lot of stuff. So that's for sealed stuff. And then maybe if you're selling just a bunch of booster packs and like premium collection boxes or all those lower end and bulky stuff, you can probably ask for like 70 to 80. I wouldn't see anyone paying above 80% for that because it's a lot harder to sell and there's a lot less margin. So that's a good percentage in my opinion. And of course, if you need it like right away, you need a quick sale, you can go lower, but try to at least stick like in your post, say you're looking for this percentage. And then speaking of asking for a percentage, when you're making the post, don't say I'll take 70 to 80%, because anyone reading that is just going to say, okay, if you're willing to take 70%, why would I offer you 80? So state the minimum, don't state a range of the price that you're willing to accept. And then another thing is, don't make, like, let's say something, bad happened in your life and you need to sell it to get money to then pay for that expense or something that happened. Don't mention it in your post, because you will run into a lot of people that are just gonna see that and say like, okay, this person needs money really badly. They will probably sell it for a lot less than what they're asking for. And if you make that post and then maybe 2 people reach out to you and then one guy is offering you like 50% market price, but they'll pay right away, you will be motivated to take that offer just because you can get the sale, get the money really quick, but you're really selling yourself short because you can get more value. And these people are kind of preying on the fact that you need money badly. So don't mention that. Just keep it like as if you're just selling a collection to make a profit. Don't describe any stories or anything like that. And then also, if you're dealing with people that are buying your collections, they can be like, if someone's going to be like, can you send a picture of every single card in there, front and back, take videos and all that, probably stay away from those buyers. It's too much work on you to be doing that. Like, I only ask people for one overall picture. Sometimes if they're selling vintage cards, I'll make sure like, is everything actually near mint, or did you just put that because it's the default option? So I'll make some clarifying questions, but I won't request them to take pictures of everything because it's just too much work on them. And you shouldn't be expected to do that if you're selling an entire collection at once, because that's what the buyer's job is to do, is to like take the pictures and sell them individually. They don't need to take pictures when they're selling a 100 card collection. So unless you have the time and you're willing to do that, I would definitely recommend not to. But yeah, for sealed product and singles, you could easily use TCG Player or the Collectr app to then track what you have and share that with the buyers. But then for graded cards, if you're selling a collection of graded cards, you can use the Collectr app, or you could price comp on eBay, but that can be very time consuming and I would not recommend doing that. But if you want to, you definitely can. Some people will try to like lowball you with eBay sold prices, and be aware of that because you never know why an item sold on eBay. Maybe someone was running an auction and they don't have a lot of feedback, or there was like bad pictures, bad description, stuff like that, and it could have sold for a lot lower than it should have. Or maybe they listed it really low on accident or something like that. You just don't want to use that because it could be skewed either way. Like if I'm buying something, I could show the seller, oh, this item sold for $5, so I'll pay you, $3. But then if you're selling it, you can look on eBay and look at the, active listing prices and say, oh, but this person has it listed for $20, so I want 15. So those numbers can be skewed very easily in anyone's favor. So just be careful with that and try to look at both sides when you're doing that. And then when it comes to agreeing on a sale, in order to protect yourself, ideally you could get paid with like Cash App or Venmo or friends and family, something like that. But most buyers would not be comfortable doing that because it just puts a big risk on them in case you don't ship it to them. They just lost all their money. So if they're willing to do that, sure, like go ahead. But most people are going to want to pay with PayPal, goods and services. And the one thing you need to look out for is when they buy it from you and they send you their address, make sure their address matches the PayPal address. And you could see that when you go on the transactions. If that person sent you money, you click on it and then it'll be a thing that says like ship to this address. So make sure those are lined up. If they are different, only send it to the PayPal address, because I've had an experience before where I think someone bought like a Efion and Glaceon VMAX from the Evolving Skies. They were both PSA 10s and he spent like $600 at the time. He sent me an address to ship to and I shipped it to that one. But then he opened a case saying it never arrived. And I was like, but the tracking shows it was delivered. And then he opened the case, but then PayPal sided in his favor because the thing that I shipped to was different than what the PayPal account said. So like, let's say he told me to ship it to Colorado. I shipped it to Minnesota or he told me to ship it to Colorado, but his PayPal account was saying Minnesota. So it was like different. And it was a pretty common scam at the time. I don't know if they fixed that or not, but definitely look out for that and make sure they match up. And that's pretty much all for this video. To wrap it up, just make sure you're very transparent with these buyers. Send them pictures or your collection so they can look through it before sending a price or sending the payment. And when you're making the post, don't give a story to explain why you need to sell your collection, because that will cause a lot of people to like lowball you, expecting you to just accept any offer because you need the money. And then the last thing is protect yourself if using PayPal goods and services, because if they ask you to ship it to one address that's different than the address on their account, they can scam you. So make sure those things line up. And if they're different, either ask them why and try to like see why it's like that, or just ignore them, send a refund and find another buyer. But yeah, I hope you guys found this video helpful. And once again, thank you all for the support, and thank you to Collectr for sponsoring this video. I hope you all have a great weekend.